Hey everybody, welcome to Rusty Hammer Forge. We're going to be doing a shop tool review of a brand new grinder from PnW Metal and Wrenches out of Dayton, Washington. That is Dan Bly, the owner operator of PnW Metal and Wrenches. I went to him about 6 months ago and was like, hey, I got this really cool grinder from Chris Lundstrom, the Ocularis, which you guys have seen already, and I think with your skills you could build a really cool grinder and have another source of income for your shop. He's like, cool, can you get me some plans? And so we got him some plans, and they didn't quite work out. They weren't the best plans in the world, so he went out and did his own research, and this is what he came up with. Alright folks, so this is the PnW Mk-1. This is his first go at putting together a grinder. It has a KBMA series NEMA 1-IP50 motor speed control hybrid drive VFD, a 1 horsepower 3-phase 3,450 RPM 1 horsepower motor. So this is the PnW Mk-1. He's already working on the Mk-2. What we're going to do now is we're going to go through and talk about and highlight the special features of this that are different than what's on most grinders. Okay, here we are down on the D plate and the platen arm. What's different on this grinder that most other grinders don't have is this type of tool rest here. This is his idea of a tool rest. Now it does have the bottom sleeve here on this Mk-1 that you can put other tool attachments in there. But what I like about this grinder is this tool rest right here. Now this is the Mk-1 where we're going to put some butterfly nuts on these and have T-bolts in here that fit in there, so it's a quick release. Right now what it does is it rotates up and you tighten it down with a ratchet or 2 wrenches, or a ratchet and a wrench, and there's your tool rest. It is super easy to eyeball. It's super easy to get level. You don't need to have a level on it to do it, but you can. Now it's just as easy to take out of action. It just slides right out of the way when you need to change out belts, and that's due to this configuration that he has on here of the alternating lengths of the slides. Now it can go way up top, way high up here, which is a good idea if you're basing it off some of the angles on the D plate here to get a nice level tool rest. I usually set it down to right about here so I have more than enough room to play around with. I'm not grinding way up here, and since my benches are really high anyways, I want to try and keep it, you know, right around in this level right here. So I'm grinding right about here. That's really comfortable for me. But what I like about this is it's out of the way. Let's say you don't want to use this. You don't need this all the time. Take it off, right? Hang it under a hook underneath your bench. It's not like a big tube coming in here that's going to, you know, take up a lot of space. But this will come with, this Mk-1 style will come with that bottom receiver so that you can use and purchase other tool attachments from online. Everything is industry spec, so whatever you order online should fit this tube. Working back from the D plate and platen attachments, we're going to move along the 2 receivers. It has the locking bolt here. Now it doesn't have one down here for the lower receiver because I don't have a lower receiver tool, but if you did, you'd have one of these locking bolts here with these handy dandy turning knobs on them that he cut himself. And then working back in here, let's pan the camera over here just a little bit here. This has a locking bolt here as well. Now it's not needed, but it does help when putting this belt on, because he has a very ingenious tensioning tower, which most have an arm that comes out here. It's pivoting. There's a spring around in here. You can tighten it down to get your tension. This is self-tensioning. There's a spring inside there, right down in here, in this bottom of the tube here, and you press down on that and you can lock it in place. Now it is self-tensioning, which I like, that you don't have to play with it. It's going to have the right amount of tension for any belt, whether it's new or old. And that is key, is that you're not going to over tighten like a tension nut to on a belt where you might explode it, it might fly off, you might be under tension, might be over tensioned. This is going to do it all for you, this automatic tensioner. Let's go ahead and put a belt on this now. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to push down on the automatic tensioner tower, push it all the way down, and lock it into place. Alright, it's locked into place. Our D plate with platen and tool rest is all the way in. We have a really worn belt, an older belt. Just going to set it on there. Make sure our platen and everything is loose, our platen arm and everything is loose. We're going to pull it out to where it's relatively tight. Right? Now we're just going to undo the tensioning nut, and now that is completely tight. And what you're looking for is that drum sound. Alright? I'm going to give it a roll here, see how it tracks. I could pull it. Now this is your tracking knob here. Pulling it towards you pushes the belt to the left, turning it away from you pushes the belt to the right. So we're going to set this up to where it's tracking down the center of this belt to begin with, and then we're going to start the machine. Now I'm going to put a picture of the VFD or the motor speed control box right up here so that you can see a nice clear picture of it, and each one of the numbers on the dial corresponds to a speed, so in a percentage of power going to the belt on the platen. So if you're set at 10, then you're 10% of power, right? If you're set at 90, then you're 90% power. If you're set at 100, you get the point, 100% power. It has a toggle on-off switch. It does have the ability to go in forward or reverse. There just is not, we haven't toggled a switch in there yet. We can do that. I should say Dan can do that. He said he could do that if the person purchasing said grinder wishes that it go in reverse as well as forward. Let's get our tool rest and everything set, and let's turn this thing on and check it out. Now, like I said before, the tool rest eventually will have some butterfly nuts here with some T-bolts on the outside that fit within these slots. Now you can also adjust the height with the main adjusting bit, and these are the same nuts and bolts that hold on your D guard. So be wary of that. This may change at some point to where you can loosen these nuts without loosening your D guard. Alright, that's something that we'll talk about. I'll talk about with Dan, since I am going through this and doing a review of this piece, and really kind of suggest to him that maybe the same bolts that you use to tighten and hold on your D plate here, that they won't be the same ones that adjust the tool rest up and down on the main beam here. So what you're going to need for this right now is you're going to need a ratchet with a 1/2 inch socket and a 1/2 inch end wrench. We're going to take and we're just going to tighten one of these down. It really doesn't matter which one you tighten down to begin with. Just get it to where it wants to sit there, where I can still play with it, right? But it's not going to move. And so I can wiggle this around to get it where I want it to be. And I can loosen this up a little bit, but I'm going to tighten up this front one now because it's close, and slightly loosen the back one so that I can get a little more play out of it, because I don't want a huge gap in between the tool rest and the belt. So let's tighten that down. And I'm just going to eyeball this. Now I could put a square on it, and that is advisable, but I can pretty much eyeball it as well and get it approximately where I want it to be. And that's it. That's how you tighten your tool rest down. Like I said, eventually I'll have butterfly nuts on these with T-bolts. Now the key to any good grinder is where the belt tracks well, and there's little to no vibrations in this. So we're going to show you a little bit about how the belt tracks, and first that we can balance a piece of this. Ends up being a piece of 15 and 20, 1/8 inch thick, 1 inch wide by 4 inches long, and we're going to stick it on the tool plate right there, and we're going to turn it on. Now I'm going to start this at 10, and we're going to go up from there. Right now we're at 40%, 50%, 70%, we're running at 100% right now. So let's take a look at the belt tracking and how our tracking knob back here adjusts it. You can see the belt is running right down the center, or close to it. It's covering up our platen here. But if I turn it away from me, it moves that belt over. You can see it. If I turn it towards me, it moves that belt towards me. Little adjustment. Now this is at 100%, so we're getting 3,450 RPMs at the platen here, right at the point of contact between our metal and the belt. Now we're going to grind a little bit of things on here just so I can show you the in operation of the grinder. Okay, we're going to be taking a piece of 5160 knife blank that was forged. It's been stamped. Hasn't been heat treated yet. It's been annealed once. No heat cycling on it quite yet. And we're going to sit and we're going to do some grinding on it. We're going to do some surface grinding on it. We will then do some bevel and edge geometry grinds on it with this machine right here, with the PnW Mk-1. So let's turn her on. I have her set low, about half speed to start out with, and then I'm going to build speed up on it. Alright, so I'm going to start with a profile grind. So there's the profile grind on it all the way around. That's what I like about this feed. What I like about the C-plate here for the tool rest is that I can come and hang off the edge and really get in to this profile really cleanly. And I don't have to come up here, you know, and take a chance of getting deep on one area. I have a complete profile grind around the whole area. Now, this is no different than any other what any other tool rest does for you. It really isn't. I'm just saying this is the only tool rest I have in the shop. The one that Dan got. A tool rest is a tool rest. The one that Dan made it fits this machine very well. That's why I like it. It is extremely useful on this machine. So let's start up and let's do some surface grinds. Okay, I have my handy dandy grinding block here that has different angles on it. We have a flat, we have a ending bevel angle there. We have a edge geometry angle there, and on the flat side we have the surface grinding angle here. This is just a simple way that I have of making sure that everything lines up for whatever profile and whatever edge geometry I'm trying to get at. So let's start our piece. We're going to start at a lower RPM. We're going to build it. If you don't have a level, this is an easy way to tell if your tool rest is level. See that? So what I'm going to do, now that's not always a bad deal, since you have to do a thin side on the edge anyways. It's not a bad idea to start a grind that way, where you grind everything from the edge side thin to thick. So I think I'm going to finish doing it this way. But if you don't like doing it that way, take a piece of scrap metal and see where it grinds first. So like if we took this piece of 15 and 20, and we can see that it's not grinding completely the way. So then what you do is you just either buy a level or play with your tool rest until it's complete. But I'm going to continue the grind like this. I like that. Okay, so I have a little more grinding to do on this, but this is a 36 grit ceramic belt that is well worn, well used. With the amount of grinding that I did in the short amount of time that I did do with this well used belt, I can imagine or foresee a new belt on this doing this in about half the time that it took me to get that right there. Alright? Let's check plunge line and belt alignment when you're doing a plunge line. Turn it up. there's my plunge. Now this is not having a ricasso or anything in it, so, but you can see when I was pushing on this belt, it wasn't moving side to side. And those that have, like the Grizzly, know that you have to chase that belt. You have to offset that belt to one side so you can get that crisp plunge line. This belt does not move at all. And it makes a rather nice plunge. Now this is not the crisp straight up and down plunge that everybody's used to. This knife will not have a ricasso. So I'm starting the plunge about of 1/8 of an inch down the choil here. So right in there. So there's no real break between the cutting edge and where you're holding it at. And that's just the style of blade that I'm grinding right now. So, but let's take a look at turning metal into the belt and doing some really hard, high definition shape grinding. Alright, so this piece of metal is a piece of 1 inch by 3/8 or 3/8 by 1, and it is used as a drift that I have. And I want to clean up some of that mushroom on there and maybe kind of round this a little bit more. So that's what we're going to do on the grinder. Alright, here we go. Alright, so you saw it. Made real short work of that. Real nice grinds. The belt is super dull. It's been really overused and it's worn. I have new belts coming. But knowing what this thing can do with a worn belt, I can't wait to use it with a brand new belt. There is a slight learning curve with it, with the tensioning tower and getting your tool rest set. The PnW Mk-1 comes with a tool rest, has a self-tensioning tower, 1 horsepower motor, variable speed drive, and a tool rest. I'll put right there the phone number to PnW Metal and Wrenches. You can talk to Dan about purchasing one of these PnW Mk-1 for $1,000. I'll also put right there his business logo. And at the very end, you'll get a look at this great machine and a couple still photos. So I appreciate everybody that tuned in to watch this. Please like, subscribe, and hit the little bell so you get a notification whenever I have more videos out. Y'all take it easy. As always, stay safe, be well, and forge on.